Polish agriculture faces a looming threat. The European Commission, in agreement with Poland's left-wing government, is preparing two pieces of legislation that may hamstring Polish farmers. The first blow is a deal between the European Union and Mercosur, that is, the countries of South America, mainly Brazil, Argentina and Uruguay. Brussels wants to ratify 90% of this deal without the agreement of the member states, so that cheap food of much lower quality may reach Europe more quickly and more easily. The agreement with the Mercosur countries is a huge threat to Polish agriculture. We have to realize that products being imported from those countries will enter the European market and displace Polish agricultural products. Polish farmers are bound by strict standards when producing food, which South American farmers do not need to worry about. Hence, Polish produce is of significantly better quality. What does the agreement between the European Union and the Mercosur group of countries include? The South American side receives only benefits. First of all, a large reduction in tariffs on products from these countries, as well as permission for much lower production standards. Nowhere is there any mention of measures to protect domestic European agriculture. There are also those in Europe, however, who look forward to the agreement. The German economy will, of course, benefit the most from the Mercosur agreement. Here, the German government is rising to the occasion and looking out for German interests, and not the interests of Polish or other European farmers. Here it's just about selling cars and machinery, and in return we have to take in food, because that's how these agreements are structured. In other words, to put it simply, the Commission, with the approval of the Polish government in exchange for the possibility of selling German cars and machinery in South America, will sacrifice EU, but above all, Polish agriculture. On top of the Mercosur agreement, however, there will be yet another blow to domestic EU agriculture. From 2028, there will be no more direct subsidies for agriculture, and Donald Tusk's people are putting their hand to it. We thought as farmers that maybe this is fake news, but here in the European Parliament we asked, and unfortunately it turns out that after 2028 there will be no more direct subsidies. And this will be a success of the Polish EU Commission presidency, because this programme is prepared by the Polish Commissioner, Mr. Piotr Serafin, which is a scandal. It cannot be that it is a Polish politician who eliminates direct subsidies. Unfortunately, it looks like an order straight from Berlin. This is yet another decision that will please German farmers. Well, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, this is the truth. This is the committee's plan. It's hard to believe that a Polish politician is taking part in this, but Ursula von der Leyen and all the rest are taking measures so that food reaches us from Mercosur, that is, from Brazil, from Argentina and from Ukraine, because a free trade agreement is being prepared. Without help from the Polish government, which is highly unlikely, farmers will not be able to endure unfair competition. Pushing the Mercosur agreement and announcing the elimination of direct subsidies is a blatant assault on Polish agriculture. And all this during the Polish presidency of the European Council. American conservatives have an idea for improving the world situation. They are supported by politicians from other countries, including Poland. US President Donald Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and former Prime Minister, and now head of the European Conservatives and Reformists, Mateusz Morawiecki, on one stage at the CPAC conference. This is the largest event of its kind held in America, but is aimed at conservative circles around the world. The conference is held every year, but the current edition may prove to be groundbreaking.
Good morning.
Washington, D.C. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance on one of the most important and anticipated speeches at this year's Conservative Political Action Conference, also commonly known as CPAC, on the revolution of common sense, not only in America, but around the world.
That friendship is based on shared values. You do not have shared values if you're jailing people for saying we should close down our border. You don't have shared values if you cancel elections because you don't like the result, and that happened in Romania. You do not have shared values.
CPAC. CPAC is the largest annual conference of conservative circles, held since 1973 in the United States.
In opposition to the globalist cabal represented at the EU, the Sao Paulo Forum, the UN, the WHO, and the World Economic Forum, and myriad other organizations funded by leftist elites. These self-anointed global elites
The previous editions of the conference have included Presidents Ronald Reagan, George Bush,
For the invitation.
We believe in free speech.
and Donald Trump, who will deliver his speech on Sunday. Surely Donald Trump will also want to act more broadly than in just terms of domestic issues, to influence the political establishment in Europe. Earlier today, a guest from Poland, former Prime Minister and now Chairman of the European Conservatives and Reformists, Mateusz Morawiecki, appeared before the American audience. I would refer to President Trump's words from his inauguration a month ago when we were talking that the world now needs common sense, a revolution of common sense, a revolution of rationality. And I think this is such a common denominator of very many Republican movements, European and American. Because, although CPAC is held in the United States, it attracts conservatives from different continents. This opposition to the whole globalist puzzle, which has been under the rule of liberals and even one could say leftist forces for a dozen years or so, is extremely important for the reason that the whole balance of power in geopolitical terms is changing. And without a doubt, since these last few days, especially since J.D. Vance's speech in Munich, we are living in a completely different geopolitical system. The current rulers of Poland are also aware of this. Americans are well aware of how Donald Tusk's people are trying to censor independent media and restrict one of the fundamentals of democracy, freedom of speech. It was CPAC that stood up for TV Republica when Deputy Prime Minister Krzysztof Gawkowski announced that our license would be revoked.
This is important because we have free speech in America, we have the First Amendment, and unfortunately in Europe, Western Europe especially, we have seen the end of free speech, the criminalization of thought and of speech. And that separates the continent of Europe from the United States. Also a problem in Britain. What J.D. Vance's words were critically important, reminding Europe that it needs to keep its democratic policies and protections. And right now, the Europeans are moving in authoritarian directions.
The CPAC conference will continue until Saturday. We will report on its progress, especially for you, on our station.
Up to 30,000 European troops are to be sent to Ukraine to monitor the ceasefire with Russia, the British newspaper Daily Telegraph reported, adding that the United States would support the operation by keeping fighter jets and missiles deployed on NATO's eastern flank ready. The idea, however, is opposed by Germany, Spain, and Italy. Echoes of Tuesday's meeting in Riyadh between the U.S. and Russian delegations are also not quiet. Donald Trump's administration envoy was greeted in Kiev by another Russian drone raid. In Kherson, bombs fell on a block of flats. One person was killed and 3 were injured. Every day, innocent people are killed in Ukraine. Every day, dozens of soldiers give their lives on the front lines. So it should come as no surprise that the main message from the American politician in Kiev was, stop the carnage.
Right. You know, this war has been going on now for 3 years. President Trump's right. It's a war that very candidly, I truly believe would not have started if he was still president. It's an egregious war in your search for life. I'm going to casualties there. He understands the human suffering. He understands the damage that you would see. And I think still we want to see it. I think it's good for the region, good for the world.
But to end this war diplomatically, both sides, even if it's unfair, must make concessions, especially since, as the American president argues, no one in the West has previously urged Moscow to talk.
I love Ukraine, but Zelensky has done a terrible job. His country is shattered, and millions of people have unnecessarily died. And you can't bring a war to an end if you don't talk to both sides. You got to talk. They haven't been talking for 3 years. So we hope to see a ceasefire soon and to reestablish stability in Europe and the Middle East.
Kiev wants to participate in all American activities. This is something the White House is unwilling to agree to, pointing out that the Riyadh meeting was a reconnaissance of the terrain for the United States to build a foundation for negotiations. Zelensky took a jab at Trump, and Trump got even.
The nastiness of these personal exchanges, well, we know that Trump has long had a penchant for labeling other figures internationally nationally in the United States with colorful names and insulting names, right? And we know that Trump doesn't like to give someone else the last word. And Zelensky, who's really fast on his feet, is also used to not being insulted or in some way attacked without responding. And in the case of Trump, that just makes him madder, and his rhetoric becomes more hyperbolic.
Do these exchanges of insults have an impact? Both yes and no. On the one hand, they become fodder for the media and Russian propaganda. They build the perception of deteriorating relations. On the other hand, however, the Americans consult with allies the whole time, and they quietly work in all directions behind the scenes.
I'll tell you the goals that animate President Trump's policy. It's really simple. He wants the killing to stop. He wants to bring lasting peace to Europe. He doesn't just want to stop it now and have the war restart a month from now. He wants to bring lasting peace to Europe because the president believes this, and he's absolutely right. Peace is in the interest of Russia. It's in the interest of Ukraine. It's in the interest of Europe. But most importantly, peace is in the interest of the American people, and he's going to fight for it for the remainder of his administration. Wherever war breaks out, he's going to be the president of peace.
It is possible that Trump's and Zelensky's actions are not accidental, but deliberately calculated to create an information buzz.
I think President Trump, on behalf of the American people, is trying to negotiate a peace between Russia and Ukraine. He talked about it a lot on the campaign trail. He said he wanted to bring peace. The war's gone on long enough, and I think he's going to deliver on that. So how we get there, I trust President Trump. He's a master negotiator, and I think he's going to get to a lasting peace.
Kyiv wants cooperation with the Americans, despite the pushback at the presidential level. Zelensky himself points out that without Washington, Ukraine has no chance for real security guarantees. It is extremely important for us that our cooperation with America be constructive. Together with America and Europe, peace can be more stable. And this is our goal. And most importantly, it should not only be our goal, but a common goal with our partners. The first effects of the American diplomatic game are already visible. Something that the Russian bombing of Ukraine did not change was changed by Donald Trump's narrative. Europe is waking up from its slumber, and for now, based on declarations, it intends to get serious about security. I have repeatedly spoken of the need to awaken Europe from the geopolitical and economic lethargy into which it has unfortunately fallen for some time. Unfortunately, recent events and a different outlook from the United States are now forcing us not only to face the truth, but also to act very quickly. As a result, the European Commission has already given the green light to increase member countries' defense spending, something that was not agreed to at the worst time of the war, when the troops of the Russian dictator and criminal were approaching Kyiv.
Thutmose II was an 18th dynasty ruler who reigned in ancient Egypt in the first half of the 15th century BC. According to historians, he was known for his firm hand in ruling and his efficiency. A group of British and Egyptian researchers are behind this remarkable discovery. What's interesting, the entrance to his tomb was discovered back in 2022, but the researchers were convinced that it was one of the royal wives that was buried there. According to experts, the tomb is in poor condition, but that doesn't diminish the discovery's significance, because the burial site of King Thutmose II was the last undiscovered royal tomb of the 18th Egyptian dynasty. Pope Francis has been in the hospital since Friday, when he was hospitalized with bilateral pneumonia. After 6 nights of treatment, there is cautious optimism in Rome. The Holy See press office reports that, this morning, the Pope got up and ate breakfast while sitting in a chair. Meanwhile, nearly 1.5 billion Catholics around the world are anxiously following the course of the Holy Father's illness. First of all, we wish him very good health and hope for his presence at the Angelus on Sundays at 12. We pray for him. We join in prayer.
We're praying dearly for him. We're very concerned for his health. I think he's going to begin to feel better. And we just arrived yesterday from New York, and so we're really concerned.
We have faith that he will have a speedy recovery.
We hope he will recover soon and be here with us. The Pope is for everyone, and we want him to recover as soon as possible so that he can hold audiences.